Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We're holding today in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Hey. We are on Samach Gimel Amid Beis. We're actually starting at the bottom of Samach Gimel Amid Aleph. We're in Hilchos Pesach Siman Tuf Samach Beis, and we are beginning today with Siv Gimel. So we have said previously here in Tuf Samach Beis, the shita of the Mechaber is that fruit juices, may peros, without water, if you have some kind of a fruit juice, like apple juice or something, and you use it to make a dough, to make your matzah, the sheet of the mechaber is that mei peros without mayim do not cause chimutz. They can't cause fermentation, and they cannot cause a dough to become chametz. That's the opinion that we had here of the Mishnah Berurah. In Siv Beis, the Mishnah Berurah said that if you have mei peros, if you have fruit juices, and you mix them together with water, then we run into trouble, because the Mechaber said mei peros im mayim, when you have mei peros together with water, memaharim lahachmetz. That actually causes the chimutz to take place quicker. It accelerates the chimutz. Now we go into Siv Gimel, where the Mechaber is going to discuss a very interesting exception to this rule. Says the Mechaber, muter lalush b'yayin, you're allowed to knead a dough using wine. Even though it's impossible to have wine that doesn't have at least a drop of water in it, and that's water that fell into the juices, into the wine during the time of the harvest. And says the Mechaber, they would even put water into the wine. They would do it initially. They would do it purposefully. They would put water into the wine at the time of the harvest. Why would they do this? Kedei lahatir nitzoik. In order to be matir, in order to render permissible, literally this means to render permissible the flow. What is this talking about? So let's go right away and let's take a look in the language of the Mishnah Berurah here. Let's go to Ois Katan Tes, all the way on the bottom of Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. Kedei lahater nitzoik. They would put water into the wine at the time of the harvest in order to be matir the nitzoik. Says the Mishnah Berurah. The gabe yayin nesech nitzuk chibur. When it comes to the halacha of yayin nesech, the flow that exists between two containers is considered a connection. It's considered a chibur, a connection between the two containers. So here's where they would run into a problem. Let's say you have a moicher yayin, as somebody who sells wine for a living, and he sells wine to Jews and to non-Jews. Now, the wine of the non-Jew may very well be yayin nesech. A non-Jew may have yayin nesech that is asur. Now, in those days, when you sold wine to somebody, you didn't sell sealed bottles of wine. You had a barrel of wine. Somebody wanted to buy wine from you. He came with his jug, and you poured from your barrel into his jug. Now, you have perfectly kosher wine. You have yayin of Yisrael, perfectly kosher wine in your barrel. Now you're pouring it over into the non-Jew's jug. The flow that goes from your barrel over into his jug causes a connection between the two. And if there's yayin nesech inside the non-Jew's jug, now it connects to your yayin, and it makes all the yayin in your barrel yayin nesech. So how do you solve this problem? If you're a moicher yayin, if you're a wine dealer, and you want to be able to sell to non-Jews, how do you solve this problem? How do you get away from this? So the Mishnah Berurah explains, the gabe yayin nesech nitzuk chibur. As we just explained in the context of the halachas of yayin nesech, the flow that exists between two containers forms an attachment between the two. Dahainu, this means, in ma'are Yisrael yayin mikadoi, if a yid would pour over wine from his kad, from his barrel, likadoi shal akum, into a jug or into a barrel of a non-Jew, uboy mashke toifeach, and in the non-Jew's barrel or in the non-Jew's jug, there is even a drop of yayin nesech wine. Let's say he comes to you with what's virtually an empty jug, but that jug has enough yayin nesech in it that it's mashke toifeach. It's wet enough that if you would touch it, your finger would get wet. You could make something else wet. So then that's considered that there's yayin nesach in that barrel. Then nesar yayin shebekadei shel Yisrael. Then what's going to happen is you're going to forge a connection between the non-Jew's jug that's wet enough to have a din of yayin nesach and the Yid's barrel, and then all the wine in the Yid's barrel is going to get a din of yayin nesach. Sha'amud hanitzoik, because the column of the flow of the wine, mechaber bein hayayin shebekliya elyon, forges a connection between the upper keli, the Yid's keli, liyayin shebekliya tachtoin, to the wine that's in the lower keli, in the jug of the non-Jew. Veroyim, and we look at it, ki'ilu hayayin shel iser ma'arav beheter, as if the prohibited wine, the yayin nesach in the upper keli, is mixed now with what was the permissible wine in the upper keli. So what's the solution to this problem? So now we've explained the problem very well. The problem is that the upper keli is the Yid's keli of kosher wine. The lower keli is the non-Jew's keli of yayin nesach. And by pouring from the upper keli to the lower keli, we're forging a connection between the two. And we're going to ruin all of the yayin in the upper keli. We're going to render it all yayin nesach. So how do we solve this problem? So explains the Mishnah Berurah. Aval, however, kisheyesh gamayim bakli shel Yisrael. If you also have water in the Yid's keli, in the upper keli, how much water? Keshir sheyachal libatel hayayin bakli shel akum. If there is enough water in the Yid's upper keli, that water would be enough to be mevatel, to nullify the wine that's in the lower keli. And in the parentheses, the Chavetz Chaim says, how much wine is that? V'hainu shishim pa'amim. If you have 60 times water in the Yid's keli against the yayin nesach and the non-Jew's keli, ulechadeh, and according to one opinion in Yeridea, b'shisha pa'amim sagi, even if the water is only 6 times the amount of the yayin nesach, it's enough to be mevatel the yayin nesach. Ayin b'Yeridea siman kuf chavav sivav shari. Then it's mutter. Why is it mutter? The chol minoi u minoi v'she'enoi minoi. Whenever you have a mixture like this, which is minoi u minoi, you have the same type of substance. You have wine in the upper keli, that's mutter, and you have a wine in the lower keli, that's aser. That's min u minoi. That's both the same type. But in the upper keli, you also have she'enoi minoi. You also have water. Water is not the same type as wine. Amrinan, in such a case, we say, salek es minoi. Let's, not theoretically, but let's in our minds remove the minoi. We look at the wine in the upper keli, in the Yid's keli, as if it's not there. Kimisha enoi, as if it's not there. Visha enoi minoi, and the water, which is of a different type than the wine that we're trying to be mevatel in the Goy's keli. Rava alav, the water in the upper keli has a majority against, not just a majority, it has 60 times or 6 times against the aser yayin in the lower keli, umevatloi, and it is mevatelit. And in the Dirshu footnote, number 15, they just did a very neat job of writing a more basic explanation of this. In footnote number 15, the Dirshu footnote here says, Pirushai, the explanation of this is, Sheyayin nesech shehis arev b'minoi shehu yayin acher. If we would try to be mevatel, to nullify yayin nesech in other wine, so we're trying to be mevatel min b'minoi. We're trying to be mevatel wine in wine, 2 substances of the same type. Einoi batel klal afilu be'elef. The halach of yayin nesech is that yayin nesech is not bottled in other wine, even 1 in 1,000. So you can't be mevatel yayin nesech with yayin. Aval im his arev be'enoi minoi. But if you were to mix yayin nesech in something of a different type, in enoi minoi, kigoin mayim, like water, harehu bottle. Yayin nesech could become bottled water. Well, therefore, in our case, Kishehis arev yayin nesech biyayin umayim, when you mix yayin nesech, prohibited wine, in a mixture of other wine and water, We look at the wine part of the mixture in the upper keli as if it's not here. And the water that's in together with that wine in the upper keli, that's going to be mevatel, the yayin nesach in the lower keli. So, in essence, in summation, what the Mechaber is saying over here, and how we've explained it from the Mishnah Berurah, the Mechaber is telling us a din. We said previously that if you mix mei peiros together with mayim, if you mix fruit juices or other liquids other than water together with water, you can't use that to knead a matzah dough, because not only does mei peiros mixed with water have the power to cause chimutz, it actually accelerates the chimutz process, and it may make the chimutz process take place even faster than plain water. However, an exception to this rule is when you have wine mixed with water. And what the Mechaber has said here is that you could make a dough, you could make a matzah dough with wine, even though the wine always has water mixed into it. Why does it always have water mixed into it? Either water may have fallen into it during the butts here, during the harvest. You're picking the grapes, and some of the grapes ooze out juice, and there's also rain and droplets and this and that, so you may have water mixed in. But not only that, the Mechaber is telling us that initially, lechatchila, they purposefully mix water into the wine at the harvest to get away from this problem. The wine dealers know that they're going to have to mix water in to solve this problem of yayin nesach when they want to pour over wine from their barrels into the barrels of the non-Jews that want to buy wine. So there's always water mixed in. So why isn't this a problem? How come you could need a matzah dough with this mixture? Why don't we say that this is mei peiros mixed with mayim, and it should accelerate the chimutz process, and it should be problematic? So now let's continue in the Mechaber on top of Samech Gimel Amud Beis, where the Mechaber will explain this halacha. And the Mechaber says, "Va'af al pikein," even though this is true, even though the wine always has water mixed into it, ein lachush lehem. We don't have to be concerned about this. We don't have to worry about it. Why? Haylu kvar nisbatlu hamayim bayayin kaidem shalashu ha'isa. Because the Mechaber says in this case, the water that's mixed in with this wine is going to be bottled. It's going to be considered nullified in the mixture of the wine before you knead the dough. Even though there is water mixed in with this wine, when you go to knead the dough, we look at this water as if it's bottled. We consider the water to be bottled. It's nullified in the wine, and you're actually making your dough with a liquid that's considered to be 100% wine. We don't look at it at all as if there's water mixed into it. Now, the Mechaber does not explain why that's true. To know why that's true, we have to look at the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah is going to explain why that's the case. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Eis Katan Yud, Haylu kvar nisbatlu. Since the water is already bottled in the wine before you knead the dough. Roiv ha'achroinim hiskimu, says the Chavetz Chaim, most of the achroinim are in agreement. De ba'alma loy mahani bittel b'mayim shenis avu b'mei peiros. That as a general rule, we do not employ bittel when it comes to saying that water mixed with mei peiros is bottled, and now you could use it to knead a dough for Pesach. Generally speaking, we don't say that. So if you want to knead a dough with apple juice, the Mechaber said earlier that 100% apple juice, according to the Mechaber, is okay because mei peiros machmitzin. But if you want to mix a dough with apple juice and water, the Mechaber said you can't do that. How about bittel? Could we pour water into the apple juice, a minute amount of water into the apple juice, and then say that the water was bottled in the apple juice and now knead the dough with the apple juice? No, the Achrayim are in agreement. You cannot say that. So how come it works over here by Yayin? Continues the Chavetz Chaim. V'chol sheyesh b'mei peiros afilu mashu mayim. Since we generally speaking do not employ bittel for this halacha, so then as long as there's even a minute amount, a mashu of water in the mei peiros, kvar nishtane tivoi v'yachal hachmitz isa. It changes the nature of the fruit juice, And even though according to the Mechaber we say mei peros ein machmitzin, but over here once there's water in it, we say that it can cause chimutz. And now you can't knead with that though, because it's going to cause chimutz. And not only that, but it will accelerate the chimutz process. And therefore, we have to be stringent. We have to rule stringently, and we cannot knead a matzah dough using this apple juice with water because it's not bottled. So now that we've gone through this lengthy explanation of saying that the water in the fruit juice is not bottled, and you can't do this, let's say, with apple juice, so why is it okay to do this with wine? So explains the Chavetz Chaim, V'hacha shani. Over here in the case of the wine, where we say that there is water mixed into the wine, and yet you can use it to knead a dough, why is it different over here? Shemis'arev hamayim bayayin ad sheloi nigmara asiyasa. Because when is the wine mixed in with the grape juice? When is it mixed in with when is the water, mixed in with the wine or the grape juice? It's mixed in before the wine is finished, before the wine is a finished product. Tahainu ba'idena tirosh, when the wine is still what we call tirosh. Tirosh is really another word for wine. That's why there's a wine company now called Tirosh, because Tirosh means wine. We say in Kriya Shema twice a day, Tiroshecha v'yitzharecha, your wine and your oil. So Tirosh is another word for wine. But we use the word Tirosh in the context of halacha to refer to fresh wine. It's wine that really hasn't been aged. And if you take a look in the Sharatzia, in nice cut Yud Aleph, the Chavetz Chaim says, Kasav Amata Yehuda, B'Shem Knesses Hagdola Upri Chadash, what's considered Tirosh? Tehu B'Sai Shloisha Yamim Lidrichasai. It's within 3 days of when these grapes have been pressed. V'Nikra Yayin Migitoi. This is what's referred to in Shas as wine from the press. So this is very fresh wine. This is wine that hasn't really had a chance to ferment. And therefore, continues the Mishnah Berurah, by me it's on the middle of the first wide line, you're mixing the water into the wine while the wine is very fresh. Va'akakach toises hayayin, and after that, the wine is really going to ferment. V'nishape chamayim gam kein layayin. And through the fermentation process, the water that was mixed into the wine before it really fermented, that water is now going to be turned into wine. Since the whole mixture over here is going to undergo such a major change, right? You're adding water over here while it's essentially still grape juice. And now the wine is going to age and it's going to ferment. And the flavor is going to change completely. This beverage is going to change to a completely different beverage. Right now, it's fresh grape juice. Now it's going to turn into wine. Nobody will question the fact that this is a major, major substantive change. So now we look at it as if the water that was mixed in while it was still tirosh, while it was still fresh grape juice, when it goes through the fermentation process together with the rest of the wine, it becomes wine. It's no longer water. And that's why it's bottled in the mixture, even though normally we say that water is not bottled in a fruit juice mixture in the context of this halacha of not needing a dough for Pesach with fruit juice and water. So like the Chavetz Chaim says, later on the wine is going to ferment, and the water is going to be changed into wine, and therefore the entire mixture is now considered wine. Well, according to this, if indeed you would mix the water together with the wine after the fermentation, then this wine would not be considered mei peros. So if you have wine, you have aged wine, you take out a bottle of wine that's already fermented, you take out a delicious Cabernet, and now you're going to take some water and pour some water into the Cabernet, and now you want to use the Cabernet to knead a dough for Pesach, that would be problematic because that water is not bottled in the wine, at least according to these opinions. That water is not bottled in the wine, and since that water is not bottled in the wine, when you now need a dough, you're needing a dough with mei peros im mayim, with fruit juices mixed together with water, which accelerates the chimutz process, and that would be problematic. So now we understand why there's a difference between wine and other mei peros. By other mei peros, the wine is not bottled. By other mei peros, the water is not bottled. But by wine, the water is bottled. Why? Because the water actually turns into wine so long as you put in that water before the wine was finished, within the first 3 days before the fermentation process, so that the water was together with the wine during the fermentation process. Now, we go on to Eis Katan Yod Aleph in the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah is a little bit troubled by the wording of the Mechaber. What did the Mechaber say? The Mechaber said you can do this. You could use wine to knead a dough, even though there's water mixed into the wine. Why? So the Mechaber said on the top line, "Hoyelu kvar nisbatlu hamayim bayayin," since the water is already bottled in the wine, kaidem shalashu ha'isa, before you knead the dough. Now the simple implication, the simple mashmois, if you take the words simply as the Mechaber wrote them, it sounds like what the Mechaber is telling me. What the Mechaber is telling me is that you should know the water that you add to the wine is bottled. Why? Because it was added to the wine before the kneading of the dough. Now, we just said that that's not true. That's not the reason why the water is bottled. The water is bottled in the wine, but the water was added to the wine before the wine fermented. Nothing to do with the fact that it was added before you went to knead the dough. So, for example, if you would take the Mechaber at face value, it sounds like what the Mechaber is saying is that if you add water to the wine before you use the wine to knead the dough, so then the water was already bottled, and now you could knead the dough. Well, then that would be true by apple juice also. If you take water and you add it to apple juice before you knead the dough, then the water is bottled in the apple juice, and now you can use the apple juice and water combination to knead the dough. That's not true. We just said that that's not true. This halach is only true by wine. It's not true by apple juice. So therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, Eis Katan Yod Aleph, Kaidem shalashu ha'isa. First, the Chavetz Chaim says, Dim nisarev mayim kolshu b'mei perish b'shas lisha. If you would add even a drop of water to any fruit juice, right when you're doing the kneading of the dough, everybody would agree that that water is not bottled. Now, says the Chavetz Chaim, the wording of the Mechaber is not 100% precise over here. According to the majority, the consensus of the Achrayim, and that's the way we've been learning this halacha until now. Because like we said, if you add water to apple juice, even before you knead the dough, it's not bottled. The kol tama bittul, because the whole reason the water is bottled in the wine in our particular case here, because the water was added to the wine before the wine fermented, and the water became wine, like we explained previously. So, therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, the wording of the Mechaber is a little bit imprecise. He doesn't mean over here that the reason this is okay is because you added the water before the lisha. Really, it's okay because you added the water before the fermentation. Va'ayin bebiur halacha. Now the Chavetz Chaim says, having said that, take a look at what I say in the biur halacha. Oh, now if we look at the biur halacha, dibur hamaschil hoyelu kvar nisbatlu, we'll see that the Chavetz Chaim in the biur halacha does bring down a different shita in the Paiskim. Says the biur halacha, Ayin Mishnah Berurah, take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Shekasavnu b'shem roiv ha'achronim, where I wrote in the name of the majority of achronim, the Mairi that we're speaking here, shenisarvu b'shasha haisa hayayin toises, where the water was added to the wine before the wine fermented, and that's why in this case the wine is bottled. V'da, however, you should know, to become Mokayim, nevertheless, yesh kam kein kama achronim, there are many other achronim, shemefarshim divrei Shulchan Aruch kipshutai, who read and understand the Mechaber's language over here as it is written simply. That even if you were to add water to already completed wine, like we said, your bottle of Cabernet, if you would add some water to a bottle of Cabernet before you knead the dough, it would be bottled. The water would be bottled in that Cabernet, and then you could use it to knead the dough. And indeed, if you would add a minute amount of water to apple juice before you knead the dough, the water would be bottled in the apple juice, and then you could take the apple juice water mixture and use it to knead a dough. The way the wording of the Mechaber would be simply understood. Shesiem, because the Mechaber said, why is this okay? Because the water was bottled, was nullified in the fruit juice before you kneaded the dough. Alma dafka b'shas lishas isa. So it would seem, if you understand the Mechaber that way, that this whole problem of adding water to fruit juice to knead a dough, where we say that the water added to the fruit juice accelerates the chimutz process, that's only when you do it right at the time of the kneading. Dafka b'shas lishas isa. This is only problematic if you do it right when you're kneading the dough. If you add a little water to the dough, that you're kneading with wine, the water would not become bottled. Because over there you can't employ bittel. Because as soon as the water hits the dough, the chimutz process that is initiated by the water has already started before the water could become bottled. But before it comes to the dough, so then of course the majority of the fruit juice is mevatel, the minority of the water. So according to this shita in the Achrayim that the Berurah is quoting, who's understanding the Mechaber as it is written, as he wrote his words simply, then it would be that by yayin it's okay because you are mevatel the water in the yayin before you kneaded the dough. So if you would be mevatel water in apple juice before you knead the dough, you put in a minute amount of water in a majority of apple juice before you knead the dough. According to this shita, it would be okay. And what's the explanation? The explanation is a very basic explanation. You take a minute amount of water, you add it to a vast majority, let's say shishim of apple juice. The water is bottled. Now this is all considered apple juice. Now you add it to the dough. According to the Mechaber, you're now kneading a dough with 100% mei peiros, and it should be fine. So when is it a problem? When does the halacha that the Mechaber said previously that you can't knead a dough of mei peiros and water? That would mean, according to these Achrayim, let's say you took Cabernet, finished Cabernet, or you took apple juice, and you poured it, and let's say it the other way. It's easier to understand the other way. You had flour, you took water, you added water to flour. Now you take Cabernet and you add Cabernet to flour. Or you take water, you add it to flour, now you take apple juice and you add it to flour. Over there, the Mechaber says that's a problem. Why? Why don't you say, well, what did I add to this flour? I added a thimbleful of apple juice. I added a minute amount of apple juice, a thimbleful of water. I added a minute amount of water, and I added a bottle of apple juice. So why don't we say that the water is bottled to the apple juice and it's not a problem? Says the Berurah, the reason we don't say that is because as soon as you poured your thimbleful of water into the flour, it initiated the chimutz process. Now when you add the apple juice or the wine, it's too late. The chimutz process already started, and if anything, the addition of the apple juice is going to accelerate the chimutz process, but it's certainly not going to be mevatel the water that already initiated the chimutz process. That's according to this shita in the Achrayim. However, as we can see here in the Mishnah Berurah did not learn the Mechaber according to this shita in the Achrayim. He learned the Mechaber going according to the other shita, who says that this halacha only pertains to wine, and it only pertains to a case where the water was added to the wine before the completion of the fermentation process. So the water was already in there in the wine when the wine fermented. And now when you take this wine-water combination and add it to the flour, it's not considered a wine-water combination. It's considered 100% wine because the water was already in there before the fermentation, and it was neshapech liyayin. It was turned into wine. Okay, now we continue the Berurah over here. We're in middle of Eis Katan Yud Aleph. It's right by the words V'kasvu ha'achrayim. Now the Mishnah Berurah turns his attention to a somewhat different case. V'kasvu ha'achrayim. The achrayim write, the yayin tzimukim, wine of raisins, or dvash tzimukim, or honey of raisins. And the way the Sharatzian and Eis Katan Yud Gimel describes this honey of raisins, he says what they would do is they would take dried fruits, like let's say dried like raisins, and they would add water to the raisins and let the raisins soak in the water. And the raisins would absorb and take in the water. Then they would press them, and you would get a mixture of water and juice out of the raisins. And then they would cook it up, and that would turn into some kind of a dvash, something that we called honey. Even though these products are definitely made with water, since the taste is completely changed, this gets a din of 100% fruit juice. So he's bringing down here from the Achrayim that raisin wine or this raisin honey, similar to what we said by regular wine, when the water is added before the fermentation, that the water undergoes such a complete change that after the fermentation is complete, we no longer consider it to be water. So too over here, by raisin wine or raisin honey, we would say the same thing. We would say that even though you made this by adding water at the beginning of the production, that water undergoes such a change together with the raisin wine or the raisin honey that it's no longer considered water. Because the water in which you soaked the dried fruits totally changes its nature. But that's only true if you use this juice or this honey to knead a dough after the fermentation is completely completed. The chanal, like we just said, by grape wine. Because otherwise it wouldn't be called mei peros. And also you have to make sure that this raisin wine or raisin honey that you're using, you have to make sure that the only water that's in it is water that was added at the beginning of the process, not that after the process of fermentation was finished, excuse me, then later on they added additional water. If they added additional water, that water would be problematic. It didn't ferment and change its taste together with through the production process. Also, furthermore, this halach is only true when the tzimukim, when the raisins, when there's a lot of it. If it's basically water with just a few raisins thrown in, so that there's more than 6 times the water of the raisins against the raisins, pshita the nekshav zekime peros imayim, then certainly this would be considered a mixture of fruit juice and water. You can't say that the water is not here. The water is very, very much the roiv umachbes, and it would cause chimutz. V'yesh me'achrayim, and there are those achrayim shemachrim b'tzimukim b'chal gavni, who rule stringently in any case of this raisin wine or any kind of mixture of water with dried fruits. V'soivrin, and they reason to make tzimukin like nechshav mei peros, that this water mixed with the dried fruits is not considered mei peros. Valkein, therefore, called bal nefesh, anyone who cares about his nefesh. That's what a bal nefesh means. I always say we tend to look at the term bal nefesh as being some kind of generic term, that a bal nefesh is just somebody who's on a high madrega. What does it mean, bal nefesh? Bal nefesh means somebody who cares about the condition of his nefesh. He cares about his neshama. He cares about his soul. And that's why he's very nizhar. That's why he's very careful in his mitzvahs, in his kiyam mitzvahs. That's why he's very careful to make sure that he fulfills mitzvahs properly. And that's why he's very careful to make sure that he doesn't transgress anything, because he's a Baal Nefesh. He cares about his Nefesh. So Valken kol Baal Nefesh Yachmir. Every Baal Nefesh should rule stringently. And he should not eat matzah that was kneaded with any kind of liquid that was used from mei peiros and from tzimukim. Anything that was any liquid that was generated by mixing water together with dried fruits. Rak limkar, rather he should sell them. Ad achar Pesach, or save it for use after Pesach. And Chavetz Chaim says, look further on, you'll see we're going to discuss this in greater detail in Sivav when we speak about Mei Dvash, honey water. I was going to try and go a little bit weiter, but I think we're going to have to stop over here by Sivda. Well, is that the case? You know what? There's not a lot of Mishnah Berurah here, so let's go further. Okay, we're going to go to Siv Dalet. Let's go back into the Mechaber Abemi. It's on the top line here, Siv Dalet. Mei Beitzim. How about eggs? Right? Egg matzah. If you use eggs, ushar mashkim, shar mashkim, other types of liquids, kulam hevu b'chlal mei peiros. These all have a din of mei peiros. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Yud Beis. Mei beitzim. Why would I think that eggs have a different din than apple juice or grape juice or anything else? Says the Chavetz Chaim, the Sakadaitach, I may have thought the Berurah mi mei peiros, that the halacha of beitzim, of eggs, might be more stringent in the context of causing chimutz, of causing something to become chametz. I might think that eggs are worse than any other kind of mei peiros. Why? Because we see that if we mix beitzim, if we mix eggs together with flour, we can actually see that it causes the dough to rise somewhat. It does cause it to swell up. So I might have thought that that's a problem. Kamash Malan, the Mechaber comes to teach me here the ein zeh chimutz, that whatever kind of rising you're seeing when you add eggs to flour, to a dough, that's not fermentation, that's not chimutz, that's what we call sirchaim. That's some kind of decomposition, some kind of spoilage. Ice cut in Yud Gimel or sha'ar mashkim, eggs or any other type of beverage. Says the Chavetz Chaim, what do we mean here when we say any other kind of beverage? The kol she'enoi mitoldais hamayim enoi machmitz. Any kind of beverage that's not toldais hamayim, that doesn't essentially come from water, that is not something that causes chimutz. V'yisbaru prate davar zel kamon simin taf samach vav ayin sham. We'll discuss this in greater detail in taf samach vav. In Dirsha footnote number 17, it said they bring down here from further on in taf samach vav. Sham is bayer. Over there, it's explained shadafka tal machmitz. Something like causes chimutz. V'chein mashkim acherim she'em mitoldus hamayim, and other types of beverages that come from water, that are initially water. Kegoin, for example, mehapeh, like saliva, which essentially is water. Uchedaima machmitzim, those cause chimutz. Masha'en ken mashke she'enoi mitoldus hamayim, but other beverages that don't come from water, kegoin dam, for example, blood, enoi machmitz, they do not cause chimutz. Ice cut in Yudalad, the Chavetz Chaim says, Havu b'chlal mei peiros. Other beverages are included in the halacha of mei peiros. V'shayich b'hudinam amuvuarim b'sif aleph ubeis. And the halachas that we've discussed here in Sif Aleph and Sif Beis, that mei peiros alone, according to the Mechaber, do not cause chimutz, but mei peiros mixed with water accelerates chimutz. Those halachas would apply to other mashkim as well. Tezvav, we go to the Ramah. On the second line, up in the Shulchan Aruch, says the Ramah, Haggah, Uve Medina Iselu, and in our countries, the Minig Ashkenaz, Ein Noyagin Lolush B'mei Peiros, we do not have the custom. Our custom is not to. We do not need a dough using mei peiros. Va'afilu liktoif hamatzos ein noyagin, even to baste or smear on the surface of the matzah using mei peiros, we do not do. Rak la'achar afiyosan ba'oidon chamin. We can only do it after the matzah is completely baked, while the matzah is still somewhat warm. But we don't need a dough using mei peiros at all. Ve'ein l'shanois, and the Ramah says we should not change this custom. We should stick to this custom. Im loy b'shas chak, unless we're in a very pressing circumstance. L'tzarchei choyle, for the needs of an ill person, or for an elderly person who needs this for some reason he cannot eat. a regular matzah that was kneaded with water. He needs to eat egg matzahs, a zakein or a chayla. And I heard from my Rebbe that when we learn Torah, if we're learning here a halacha that pertains to chaylim, so like we say on Rosh Chodesh, it was just Rosh Chodesh, we say in Yala v'Yavai, we ask that our remembrance, Yala zikreinenu, fiktainenu, our remembrance should come before the Rebbeinu Shalom l'tova. When we learn a halacha that has to do with a chayla or a zakein, the schus of the limud HaTorah should awaken that the Rebbeinu Shalom should remember all of those chaylim and all of those zakenim who are at risk. The Rebbeinu Shalom should have rachmanis on them. The schus of the Torah should be megan on them. The schus of limud HaTorah should protect them. Everybody who needs a refuah should have a refuah, and the Rebbeinu Shalom should protect. No one else should get sick. So the Ramah says, "Ve'ein l'shanos." We should not change this custom. We should not knead a dough with mei peros im loy b'shas adchat letzarchei chayla izakein hatzarich lazeh. Says the Mishnah Berurah near the bottom on Samach Gimel Amud Beis, Ois Cotton Tezvav, Ein Nayagan Lalush. Our custom is not to knead a dough for Pesach using mei peros. Why? The Choshishin lechatchila l'sfaras hani paiskim, because lechatchila we worry about the opinion of these paiskim. Desfir lehu de mei peros belechudayu gamkein machmitzim. They argue on the shusha of the mechaber. The mechaber says that 100% mei peros does not cause chimutz, but the other paiskim argue on the mechaber. And lechatchila we worry about those opinions. So we do not need a dough for Pesach using mei peros. And not only do these shitas hold that 100% mei peros does cause chimutz, they even go further and they say that even 100% mei peros accelerates the chimutz process, and something may become chametz even in less than a sheer mil, even in less than 18 minutes. We also worry that maybe our fruit juice is not 100% fruit juice. Maybe a minute amount of water got mixed in to l'kulei alma machmis. And over there, everybody, all the poskim agree that fruit juice mixed with water causes chimutz. Ice cotton tezayin, ein noyagin. We're not accustomed to even smearing the surface of the matzah, basting the surface of the matzah with mei peros. What the Ramah means to say here is limshayach es pnei hamatzos b'mei peros, to smear the surface of the matzah with mei peros, afshehu davar muat. Even though this is only such a minute amount of mei peros, still our custom is to not do this. You could do it after it's baked while it's still warm. The achrayim right. The gam bazeh yesh lizar milikchan lelelos rishaynos lekazai shel chayva. Even this, even a matzah that was smeared with fruit juice while after it was baked, while it was warm, you should not use that to be yotze your chiyuv of matzah shel mitzvah. The heavy kein matzah ashira, because this is too close to matzah ashira. It's similar to what we said if you knead a dough with mei peros, right? Even according to the mechaber, who said that you could knead a dough with 100% fruit juice, but we said you can't use it to fulfill your mitzvah of achilas matzah because it's not lechem oini, it's not poor man's bread, it's lechem ashira. So too over here, even though you're not kneading it with the apple juice, you're just smearing apple juice on the surface. But even that, the Chavetz Chaim says we should not use it for the mitzvah of achilas matzah. And for sure, certainly, if you're going to smear the surface of the matzah and then put the matzah into the oven, that's much too close, much too similar to matzah ashira, and you cannot use that to be yotze the mitzvah. We should not change from this minhag. We should stick to this minhag, not to use a dough that was kneaded with fruit juice. And according to our minhag, even if you kneaded a dough with fruit juice and you immediately baked it, so you didn't give it a chance to become chametz, you should not eat this dough on Pesach. You should leave it for after Pesach. Unless you did this for the needs of an ill person or an elderly person. If you are, let's say, making this egg matzah, let's say, for a chayla or for an elderly person who needs it, yoifei miyad. You should make sure to bake it immediately. Don't give that dough any chance to ferment and become chametz. The dafka b'mei peres lechudayu, and even for an ill person or an elderly person, we only use 100% fruit juice. Avo b'mei peros mayim, but if it's a mixture of fruit juice and water, ein lolosh lechatchilo afilu b'shas chak lechatchilo, we would not use that even in a pressing circumstance. We wouldn't use that to knead a dough. Thank you so much for joining me for this share for Limud HaTorah. Like we said, the schus of Limud HaTorah should be megan on Gans Klal Yisrael. Whoever needs a refuah should be rezoichet to a refuah shalema b'karov. Nobody else should take sick. The Rabbi Shalom should protect everyone, and we should be zoichet not only to see the end of this, but we should all be asking for the Geula Shlema b'meher v'yameinu. We should hear that Tekiah Shvarim Trua Tekiah very soon. We should be zoichet to Kibbutz Goliath, and we should come to the Yerushalayim, to the Beis Hamikdash b'meher v'yameinu. Have a great day. Be well.